Mean sea level will continue to rise during the 24, and global glacier volume will also shrink further. There will be impacts on food and water, increased poverty, increased displacement of people, and coastal flooding. Now, as it happens, the window of action is really closing very rapidly. So we have a very short window of opportunity. If you look at the total carbon budget to ensure that temperature increase by the end of this century will not exceed 2 degrees Celsius, we've already used up a substantial share of this. What's remaining for us is only 275 gigatons of carbon. So this clearly shows that we have a very limited window of opportunity, and I think the global community must look at these numbers and show the resolve by which we can bring about change.
The IPCC report reiterates that we've already burned about 2/3 of the carbon necessary to warm the Earth 2 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial temperatures, a milestone that the international community has agreed to avoid. Staying under 2 degrees centigrade warming will require slashing annual emissions to 40 to 70% below 2010 levels by 2050 and reaching zero emissions by 2100. Most of the scenarios analyzed that achieve this goal rely on some form of carbon capture and sequestration, like pumping CO2 captured from power plants into underground reservoirs to reduce the impact of the fossil fuels we continue to use.
It's also true that each of the past 3 decades has been successively warmer than the preceding decades since 1850. And if you look at where the heat has gone, this is a major finding of the 5th assessment report. More than 90% of the energy accumulating in the climate system between 71 and 2010 has accumulated in the oceans. So in a sense, the oceans are bearing a large part of the burden that we have imposed on this planet in the form of climate change. And land temperatures remain at historic highs while ocean temperatures continue to climb as the heat keeps sinking to lower depths in the ocean. Between 2000 and 2010, emissions have grown much faster than in previous decades. So there is need for us to bring about a major change to this very disturbing trend. The sources of emissions come 35% from the energy sector, 24% from agriculture, forestry, and other land uses. Now this is something that the 5th assessment report has focused on with due importance to this particular sector. 21% from industry, 14% from transport, and 6.4% from the building sector.
The longer we put off real change, the report reminds us, the more painful the cuts will be. And overshooting our target early in the century means finding a way to actively pull sufficient quantities of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere later in the century, with no feasible solution to do so yet available. Adaptations will be necessary to weather a changing climate regardless, but that job becomes much easier if the impact of climate change is minimized.
The collaboration in terms of action should be global, should be regional in Africa, should be global in the world, and the need to let everybody, including those who are burning more, to define their own level of contribution, because they are the ones that are burning more. They have to contribute more. And you that are burning less should raise your voice in advising those people who are burning more to reduce their, or build your capacity to be able not to follow their own trend of burning. So the world must think of alternative living. It's no more feasible if you just think that, well, you can't kill your industry, and your industry is not doing the same, it's not doing what will reduce carbon emissions. They're just looking for a way of maybe using a window of opportunity in one part of the world. You must be responsible for your own emissions first. You must know that you are contributing, to global earth warming, and you must determine or define how you are reducing the level of your emission. Then you can assist others to increase the opportunities for reducing emissions. That can be additional. But first of all, the real demonstration is that, okay, in my country here, we know we are on so and so levels of emission, but we are bringing it down to by 10%, 20%. That is responsibility.
And whether you think there are any important lessons coming from this.
According to the scientists, everything we know tells us that immediate action is warranted both ecologically and economically. But even as the IPCC report provides updates to the best available knowledge on the last array of topics relevant to climate change, the scientists warn that climate change is not going away, especially if we try to ignore it. The biggest remaining question isn't one for researchers to tackle, it's what we will do to shape the future.
And deadly effects to many places around the world. This global system of our Earth is having really a high temperature. So when your child is sick with the temperature, you have to take all medication and, if necessary, bring to doctors. This is what we have to do now. If I compare with our human body conditions, we have to first lower the temperature as you will do to your children. There should be no temperature, first of all. That is what we are doing. That requires some massive and urgent and immediate action. We have to mobilize all financial resources. I was very much encouraged when I convened the summit meeting on September 23rd. There were many business leaders, world-class business leaders. They pledged at least $200 billion for green economic development as well as climate-friendly investment. I was able to have in-depth discussions with the business leaders here. They are all committed. And I was very much encouraged that all business community leaders who were in New York, they were very much committed. As you may know, the United Nations has initiated this global compact where 8,000 world-class business companies are joining. They voluntarily created the Caring for Climate Action Group. They are taking their own actions. I have been urging those companies or firms who may use a lot of money, like pension funds or insurance companies. They are using this money, investing in any way. I'm asking them, please reduce your investment in coal, fossil fuel based economy to renewable energy, renewable sources of energy. Of course, we may have to live with all these fossil fuel energy resources, but we have to gradually to move to renewable sources.
In particular, advocates for government action on climate change are focusing on a new round of international negotiations on some kind of global climate pact. In December, nations meet in Peru to talk over some options, with the goal of arriving at a final agreement at a meeting in Paris in December 2015.
And I think we should feel a strong sense of urgency because we have to really deal with these issues in the next few decades. On the other hand, I think sometimes you should stop waiting for a second and actually begin to celebrate a number of positive developments. The growth of awareness, the planet has never been more aware of the problems and the solutions. We've never been able to engage so many people across the world, all over the world, developing economies, emerging economies, around environmental issues. Particular sectors have shown incredible engagement, acceleration in engagement over the last couple of decades, particularly the private business sector. But what really excites me most is the booming of civil society engagement, again, across the whole world. And that's particularly at the local level. Community-based, local NGOs, group of concerned citizens are really coming together and creating a new global movement that I think has the potential to turn things around and to exert the pressure and raise the demands for public good.
It is unclear, however, whether the new IPCC report can help help overcome the political and economic obstacles that have blocked major movement of reducing emission.
Because there's so many invested interests. And generally, the human animal generally avoids change. We tend to prefer the status quo. But unfortunately, the status quo is no longer a viable option.
Even just individual citizens, a lot of the ways they can play actions. Using this electricity and a single drop of water should be used sparingly to make our world a sustainable way. And this is what I'm sending messages to the world. Thank you.
That's our program for today. Thank you for watching. God willing, we'll be back with you again next week. But do you have any comment or question? Our inbox fr@channelstv.com is open anytime. For me, Ayola Kasim, and all of us here, it's bye for now.